Yep, I just wanted to see if I can jump in and give a quick update real quick.
Oh
With
yeah.
the Yamhill Soil and Water Conservation District, we just finished our long-range plan back in June. That was about a year and a half in the making. Brooke is mailing that out this week, actually, so you should be receiving that. Also, don't know if you all have heard, you'll see it in the long-range plan. We're working on restructuring our protected land program in partnership with a new 501c3 land trust for Yamhill County. That will hopefully be in the works of being created this month. And we should have more information on how that could change our protected lands programs and the about 3,500 acres that we currently protect, and what opportunities, both funding and partnership opportunities, that may open up for a variety of purposes, including water quality and monitoring, that kind of stuff in the future.
Today I'm going to be talking about the Pesticide Stewardship Partnership Program, and really it's focused on Cozine and Palmer Creek watershed basins. Every year we're supposed to do an annual review of the data that we found. Okay, so what is the PSP program? It's basically a partnership between DEQ, ODA, local conservation groups, and the local residents. And there's 9 different watersheds that ODA and DEQ have identified as having pretty extreme issues with pesticides. So they wanted to focus on those 9 separate areas. And that's the map there that you can see. The main focus is to identify the local pesticide water related issues, enact solutions for protecting the water quality through outreach and engagement, pesticide users. And really this program was built to give increased technical assistance and educational awareness before regulatory action had to put into place. And so this really got started with the work of the Farm Bureau and other farmer agencies to kind of get ahead of regulatory. So for the Yamhill Basin, here's our 2 watersheds. We've got Cozine Creek on the left here, and we've got 2 monitoring locations here. One kind of at the edge of the urban area, and then one kind of right in the middle of the urban area. And then also on Palmer Creek, we have 4 separate monitoring stations there. This last one down here recently got removed, and I'll kind of follow up later why that station was removed from the program. And just as a quick background, the SWCD took over management of the PSP program from the Watershed Council in 2022. The previous director left, SWCD took on the program. I really thank the Watershed Council for kind of building this program over the past 10 years. The water quality status trends that are impacting our native fish. Previously I mentioned how this program is trying to get ahead of what regulations there. And trying to avoid that, but there are regulations that are already in place. Those that impact aquatic life. So one big issue is this dissolved oxygen. Our local fish are not enough oxygen to live. That's kind of coupled with high temperatures. And then also pesticides. So for example, chlorpyrifos was a heavily used or pesticide in Illinois industry, and it got banned in 2020. And so Palmer Creek is listed for these pesticides, and since 2020, we haven't had a detection. So it's good to see that people are taking that seriously. The other issue, obviously, would be water contact and recreation in these local waterways. Cozine Creek, in particular, has a lot of parks along the riverway where kids could be getting in waters. So we want to be conscious of potential coli or issues like that. In the past, there have been elevated levels of that. And then Mercury's Team DL, Logan's very familiar with this one. It's kind of an EPA mandate that we need to address all the mercury going to our streams. And that really is coming into our streams mostly from soil erosion. So how can we limit soil erosion? Mercury binding into those soil particles leading into waterways.
So how does the mercury get in the soil to begin with?
Some of it's natural,
okay.
But other aspects is it's going to be air deposition. So our global climate.
Most of it comes from out of country and out of state, and basically it's released into the air and then travels over the Pacific Ocean and falls in rainwater. About 25% of it falls directly into lakes, rivers, and streams, and the rest of it will fall into the earth and combined soil particles.
So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that we can address that. One of the small grants that Greta just got for Cozine Creek will hopefully protect and protect the soil resources. And so just got an image of all the different native fish that are using in our creek systems here. So what exactly are we finding in our waterways? So one big herbicide that we're finding is diuron. It's historically was used a lot on rights of way by county and ODOT spraying the roadsides, but it's actually not used that frequently anymore. But we keep finding it in the waterways because it's highly resistant to break it down in the water and soil. So every year when we get a big flush of rain, it's back into the waterways. And it actually can still have an impact on aquatic plants, kill those plants, and then it kind of has an impact on the food chain that is, providing habitat for the fish. So there's one that, while it's not being used much more, we're still finding it getting into the waterways. So preventing the soil erosion is really one of our best ways to prevent that. Next is imidacloprid. So imidacloprid is an insecticide. It is commonly used in agriculture and residential uses. And it was created to mimic nicotine. And so I don't know if you've heard about neonicotinoids and the highly toxic effects on honeybees and other beneficial insects. So this insecticide is highly toxic. And so when it kills the beneficial insects that are in the aquatic ecosystem, then that limits the food availability for all the other fish that are in the system. One of the reasons it's so highly toxic is what we're finding is that whenever we detect it in the waterway, it's toxic fish. So this is, it's one of our biggest pesticides that we want to be stop using and stop using in the waterways because it's basically deadly when we find it in the waterways. And lastly is carbaryl. This was a new one that we hadn't seen going over certain limits in a while. It's been around for a long time, since 1959. Used to control a variety of things and often used in residential uses. Highly toxic to shrimp, water fleas, stoneflies, which are a huge food source for fish, and it can be toxic to fish itself. I found this image actually from 2014 over here from the Northwest Center for Alternative to Pesticides. And so 10 years ago, they put a mandate in that says you can't spray it within 60 feet of a waterway. So there's just these new mandates that are being put on these different chemicals. Carbaryl was one of them, and chlorpyrifos was one of them as well. So those are the three pesticides that of highest concern for our waterways.
Good question. Is
Yeah.
glyphosate?
It is. We still track it, but it's not being found above levels that are to fish based on the studies and stuff. Yeah, I'll get to that maybe in this one right here. So yeah, how is our water quality monitoring conducted? Photo on the left is myself and our intern Nicole Bohall from last year. And basically we have 4 separate jars. We have general pesticides, the large jar, then we have a glyphosate specific bottle right there. Then we've got a bottle for total suspended solids. And so this is really measuring that active erosion in those suspended soil particles in the waterway. And then lastly is phenoxy herbicides. They're a very specific type of herbicide that actually do a separate analysis on before. And here's just a quick overview of the different locations that we've been sampling at. And really, these 2 locations on Palmer Creek is where we're sampling all 4 of those bottles. They're the highest concentrations of pesticides we're finding. Cozine Creek, we're just doing general pesticides and set them in. One of the other up higher locations on Palmer Creek, we're just doing standard pesticides and set. And this link here, I can share this. I'll make it available afterwards. DEQ actually has an active data viewer. You can look at kind of all the data that's out there. That's where Brooke helps create a lot of the graphs that I'm starting showing. So first I wanted to talk about the middle Cozine at Old Sheridan Road. So this site is right on kind of the edge of the urban rural areas. The photo on the right or on the left was taken in April, really high flows. And the photo on the right, I'm actually down in the creek in the insides channel there. So I always love to show how different shooting seasons could be for the seasons. We're finding imidacloprid in this location and diuron. I'm pointing out that whenever we find imidacloprid, it's always over a certain benchmark whenever we find it. And carbaryl was not found at this location. And so now I just want to do a quick overview of the graphs that I'm going to show. So the Environmental Protection Agency has an aquatic life benchmark, which basically estimates concentration of these pesticides that can be found in the water. And above that level, it's harmful, and below that level, it's not harmful. Instead of giving you a measurement of 0.13 micrograms per liter, they just turn it into a ratio. Here we're seeing diuron detections here. One of these detections in early spring. This was for the old Sheridan Road site. Really high spike, 50 to 20 times above that aquatic benchmark there. And then for imidacloprid, whenever you see a graph of imidacloprid, all the dots are always above the line because whenever we find it, it's above that threshold of being toxic. So again, I guess we're finding the higher concentrations maybe at that more rural agricultural influence area. Here's a photo of Lower Cozine Creek at Davis Street. This is kind of right on the edge of Winfield's campus. It's a city property. Again, just a comparison of kind of higher flows on the right, and then lower flows on the left. You see a nice, probably a stormwater pipe going straight into the creek there. And this is the location that we found carbaryl at. We didn't find it at any of the other sites. We saw a spike last spring, and these orange dots are this location. So this gives us some information that it's probably being used in the urban setting, not really in the agricultural setting anymore. So what do we do to outreach to those communities to figure out who's using that and why?
Is there something specific that carbaryl is used for in terms of like a specific pest that people try to, or is it more
aphids, fire ants, fleas, ticks, and spiders? Those are all things that we would be worried about in an urban setting and spraying around.
And you saw the spike in April, sort of right when spring hits, people are probably out just doing a general spray.
Right, that. So
was that also potentially attached to like a first flush event?
So, this is where our program comes into play. Okay, or this is regulated. How do we work with our local community to teach them what's out there? And really, you can't just say no. You have to give them an alternative if they still want to.
Well, I had a guy cold knock on my door wanting to spray for ants. So I wonder if companies coming in and doing that kind of stuff could promote some of those spikes.
That's one avenue I haven't reached out to yet. I've reached out to the school districts and other municipalities about asking what is your plan and what other sites are allowed or not allowed to spray. So
I know Kurt's on the call, but have we reached out to Linfield at all to see what Linfield?
Yeah, the Linfield students helped me with the list, and
it's not them.
no, it's not them.
Okay.
They didn't have carbaryl listed. I believe Linfield and State of McMinnville had a couple of products that had imidacloprid, so I just pointed that out to them. So.
Okay, but yeah, that could potentially be something where we could work to get a list of the stream side property owners that we could send pamphlet to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can use our overlapping garlic mustard
Sure.
kind of outreach mailer we have, or that kind of list of people.
I would recommend reaching out to those individual companies. I think I'll second that the short time I've lived in my house, and I've had 4 times people have knocked on my door to say that all the neighbors are spraying for ants, and we'd like to know if you want us to spray while we're in the neighborhood, kind of thing. I have a feeling a lot of people, when the ants have a certain time of year that they're coming in, and people think they need to spray.
You don't have any like dog groomers or pet supply people, or are there?
You know what?
Imidacloprid.
Yeah, imidacloprid is a product in flea and tick medicine for animals.
So either I would imagine like a dog grooming station would probably emit some of that stuff.
Right.
Sure. I think along that section of Cozine, there is the I think it's Baker Street Animal Hospital. There's just it's near Old Sheridan Road. I know they have a grooming station, but It's a good thought, Tom, but I think the only other place that I know that does animal grooming in town would be Wilco, is the way I'm wondering.
Does it translate into the waste though?
It's a good question. I don't know. Sometimes it does, right?
Well, and that's another good point is hopefully that would be going down the sanitary drain and would be treated.
But I mean, an owner of a pet,
Oh,
is that pet
yeah.
then taking the toxin?
Yeah, that's a good research thing. Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
because I give my dog something that he ingests.
Right,
Does it actually then get through his
Right.
urine when he goes into the creek?
yeah,
Or is it creek? Yeah, who knows?
yeah, I don't know, that's interesting.
All right, so moving on to Palmer Creek. So this is our most downstream point on West Fork Palmer Road. It's right under one of the main bridge crossings there. Imidacloprid is detected at a very high frequency, 85% of the time, these samples, and Diaron was detected at 100% actually.
We have mentioned human waste, but they just replaced the sewer line right there, so maybe that'll help.
Right at Palmer, or?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, from that area just to the south of Dayton, it's a new line coming into the treatment plant.
good information.
Tony just had a comment too. He says they may use some sprays for the cherry fruit flies in orchards, typically spraying in March-ish.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And when we get to the end, I'll kind of talk about our next steps forward. But part of that is kind of farmer focus groups and figuring out what exactly are they spraying and how kind of give alternatives to using pesticides. So East Branch Palmer at Stringtown Road. This is a unique site. It's actually right at Palmer Creek Irrigation District's one of their big water intakes there. So at this site, we're finding a lot less imidacloprid, and this is the East Branch of Palmer Creek, but find Diaron 100% of the time. So, and then the last one is West Fork Palmer Creek Road. If anybody knows what that grass species is, it's all reed canary grass. It's I'm covering that whole floodplain, man. So it's just one thing that really catches my eye when I see it. So really lacking in native vegetation.
I was gonna ask, is that an invasive species?
It is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It does hold the banks and hold sediment decently well, but it kind of creates this one uniform monoculture mat. Building up a kind of a scattering of native trees.
Separate from this project, but potentially a project that the larger council could take on, do some restoration there.
Yeah, possibly flowing in there. That's interesting.
Yeah, that photo looks very much like the road that crosses Palmer Creek.
Yeah.
Palmer Creek Road crosses
Right.
it. That's exactly
That's
the way it
exactly it,
looks.
yeah.
And it's just all unused land. I don't know who owns it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. The upstream area is one of us kind of more active than the downstream area. It's like, yeah, and I guess another point about this one is the water is almost stagnant here. Hard to ever quite capture a perfect sample in flowing water. It's not moving very fast. All right, so here we've got some different graphs. It's almost 600 times the limit at Westward Palmer Creek at Palmer Creek Road, so that last site that we're at. So use this upstream of that point right there, and that was actually that was the fall of this last year. A lot of imidacloprid being used at really high rates, or it's being used close to the creek or something. So doing outreach to that community is going to be a pretty high focus moving forward.
So a lot of dairy farms, is that
There's dairy farms up there. There's some hazelnuts. There's Bailey's Nursery. It's a huge operation upstream of that.
So I mean, that data point is such an outlier, is it,
Yeah.
is it argued to more of the same, do you think, or is it just an odd one?
It could be an odd one, but we've had a couple high ones in the past too. So 200 times the limit here too. So
Yeah, so it makes you wonder then if you have some, were there particular weather events or farming events, whatever, when they trigger that, so you can kind of tease out what could be
right.
adjusted or control.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of our first initiatives, hopefully we put in a grant to get some more funding to actually do on the ground projects instead of just outreach and education. We'll be working with OSU's hazelnut expert Nick Wyman. We would hold farmer focus groups kind of in this Palmer Creek basin. And one of Nick's big ideas is using pheromone dispensers, pheromone traps. And when you put those out into a hazelnut orchard, you can actually eliminate one of the sprays that farmers usually do. So those types of opportunities, which I think is kind of where we're heading. And then just getting them all in a room too to kind of figure out exactly what.
Gotta say, I mean, the fact that we can do that was commendable because
Well, we'll see.
I'm sure.
Yeah, we
probably have some resistance.
would not be able to do it without Nick Lyman. I mean, all the hazelnut growers really respect him. He's, you know, an excellent professor and research and knows a lot about production too. So he gets exactly what he wanted.
That's something that's been growing like crazy for the last 5-10 years.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, doing those types of things, and also, you know, trying to more cover crops or more ground cover in the case of orchards too.
Yeah, I never understood how they could be that land done.
Yeah, so it's another work in progress there. Then lastly, this is the site that got removed a couple of years ago. I've never actually been there in person, but this is Bailey's nursery right here. You can see a very distinct line. But when they were doing sampling there, it was consistently below kind of the limits that we were finding. So we weren't finding high spikes in this stuff anymore. But I also kind of remember hearing that there's such low flow during certain collection events. It's like getting good data at themselves, kind of eliminating. And here's our diagram in Palmer Creek area, and then all of these orange dots here in 2021. That was that last site that just got removed. So below the aquatic life ratio. So we're finding that might be not a good site to be tested. All right, so we looked through all the data, and now we're going to talk about how we can protect water quality. IPM, or integrated pest management control methods, are kind of the pillar of figuring out how we reduce pesticide use, managing pests. So that could be biological controls. I would say pheromone dispensers are part of that operation. Releasing beneficial insects, that's another aspect that we're really interested in pursuing, working with ODA to release specific pests out there to go after other. Doing crop rotations, planting date, and agricultural controls. The physical controls would be using tillage instead of spraying, hand weeding, or using burning to go after weeds. And then also we recognize that chemical controls are an important aspect of pest management. So being sure that we give options to all of our growers for maybe less lethal options. So those are all the methods of kind of reducing our pesticide use. And then one of the biggest ways that we can actually prevent those pesticides from getting into the waterways is riparian buffers. I wanted to make a good plug for one of our programs that SWCD has. It's our Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. This is open for agricultural landowners, and it's basically helping to cost share and provide financial assistance to replant your degraded springways. One of the great things I like about this program is they actually require a minimum of a 35-foot buffer, and it's a lot of research has found kind of need that minimum buffer to actually filter out pesticides and soils like that. So if anybody's interested in that program, you can reach out to my coworker Rachel Cato. And lastly, what are all the different ways that we can help protect water quality as a community? So if anyone is ever interested in volunteering to conduct monitoring with the PSP program, you can reach out to myself. And we also have some stream temperature monitoring and other water quality sampling going on Deer and Muddy Creek as well. So anyone that's interested can reach out. I've had a handful of Linfield students volunteer with mine. So next would be attending focus groups and workshops to learn about IPM strategies and guiding our future programs. That's specifically kind of talking about the the hazelnut farmer focus group that we're hoping to initiate this fall. And also, potentially hosting water quality workshops for pesticide users. So, come around fall, a lot of people need to get recertified. So providing opportunities to learn a little bit more about specifics that are going on in our area. Something we're interested in providing. Free waste pesticide collection events. This is something that ODA offers yearly at various areas, and then the city or the county, I believe, offers some in Manville and in Newberg. It's run by this is no questions asked, come and dispose of your old pesticides. Moving into 2025, that'll be our kind of next grant cycle for the PSP program, and we would like to develop a strategic action plan. We've been at this, the Watershed Council and now SWCD for over 10 years, and we don't have a plan yet in place. So I think it's time to sit back and create a strategic action plan. How are we going to improve water quality in the air? And so we would love as much community input on that as possible. And then inquiring about IPM plans, like we talked about earlier, with the school district, municipalities, golf courses. That is one I just haven't reached out to yet, but Micklebrook Golf Course is a huge landholder in the city of Newville. It'd be great to talk to them about what they use.
Sure, and I don't know what the possibility would be, but the North Codine branch that we're doing, the restoration project, that's where they flow through. So I don't know if we can potentially have a monitoring station there to see if we're seeing spikes there that we're not seeing. Because it might be that the second station is downstream of that North Codine confluence, and so it might be we might be able to pinpoint, is it urban areas that are along the main branch of the Codine there, or is it urban areas along the North Codine that are contributing to it?
Yeah, that's a good point for this. So let's go back to the map real quick. Yeah, so this north branch of Codine, that's all urban, right?
Yeah, and
the golf course is right.
That green space that you're on right there, that's Michael.
Yeah, and I'll reach out to ODA and DQ and see if like 2025 or 27 we could have a new location. And point those.
Because that would, like you said, being able to pinpoint a little bit more and do that. And I know obviously that you also have the Michaelbrook Country Club, and then you also have several HOAs with private streets, private parks that also have their own private management programs that tend to focus on very nice, very well maintained green space. So I'm sure.
So Cottonwood, where I live, there's a big wetlands area that's managed by the HOA.
Yeah.
But is that draining Codine Creek, or?
Yeah, that does drain Codine Creek. So I think where you're talking about, I'm trying to see it there.
It's up the north end.
Yeah.
I've actually met with people that live up in this area.
Yeah. So it drains down, and I don't know if that section drains to the North Codine. It might or it might go. I think it has to, because there's that hilly area around second, but I'd have to bring up my floodway maps to know exactly where it drains.
Because under Cottonwood, there's a big culvert.
Yeah.
Water flows through that like crazy.
Yep.
When it's raining.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which direction it goes, to be honest.
Isn't there also a wetland up where the new park is near Hill Road and Baker Creek?
Yeah, so that so you can sort of see it
that would
there.
drain into that too.
So if you go north, no, I think if I understand what you're talking about, you go north to the green space along Baker Creek.
Yeah.
That all drains to a pond area up there, and then that all drains to Baker Creek itself.
Okay. And what's happening with that rock quarry up on
Fox Ridge. Nothing right now. That's all out in the county.
Somebody was saying something was going to develop into that. I know.
Some folks have talked about it, but nothing has come in yet. There's a Fox Ridge area plan for folks who want to develop, but nothing's come in yet. And I think that quarry also, it has some water rights associated with it, with the West Hills expansion that's out in the county on the west side of the river.
It's just a big lake now.
Yep. Great swimming hole. It's hot outside.
Yeah, and then just the last thing I wanted to mention was I learned about this initiative through the XWCD Society called Bee City USA, or it's also Bee Campus USA. So it's this pledge that a city or a campus can make that says we are going to invest in native pollinators and native habitat and create an IPM plan for really be safe. So that could be a good initiative for all your students, Kurt, to get Bee City certified.
Yeah, I think that'd be really exciting to get environmental studies students and our Linfield garden program excited about pollinators.
Yeah, basically just reads like a PowerPoint, but a scrolling PowerPoint. So it has kind of the background of the Pesticide Stewardship Partnership Program. The PSP program is working, and so from 2019 to 2021, we saw a huge decrease in pesticide detections. So what put that in? Yeah, a lot. So it is working. That could kind of correspond to the chlorpyrifos being banned, so we're not paying any chlorpyrifos in the plants. Yeah, working with people voluntarily is great, but also regulations worked. So Nicole, pointed out imidacloprid and the diuron. Pictures of this, and then this is where the cool kind of ArcGIS aspect works. And so I got our systems here, our Cosine Creek over here, and Palma Creek over here. Once we scroll down, we've got different photos, and then different graphs that are kind of associated with different locations. And so this is a little bit older data, but I guess this might get to our questions about over time, like what have we seen, right? So from 2012 to 2022, we are kind of seeing a spike in imidacloprid, at least in 2020 and area. This is that location here, same with higher levels. Diuron, pretty lower levels, imidacloprid again. So again, IPM, different aspects. So this is just a really cool resource to be able to use, and I think it's a great project for a college intern to learn how to use this tool.